to get started. Thank you so much for hitting the record button. So those of you who are wondering, yes, we will be recording the session and we'll make sure and get it sent out after the fact. So if things come up and you need a drop, or you're like, this is the best session I've ever attended in my life, and you want to share it with all of your friends, then we will definitely make sure that you can do that. So this is the Better Together Jira Service Management and Jira Software Atlassian Community event. We have Kate and Jeremy here to present. I am super excited about this event and just learning more about how we can use these tools together. I know that's definitely something that my company sometimes struggles with and has as a challenge. So super excited. Just a few things I wanted to call out. We had, at the time that I looked it up, we had 152 RSVPs from 14 different locations, which is just super cool to see so many people from around the world joining. And this is definitely a worldwide event. So these are all the different 14 locations that have co-hosted with us. So thank you so much to all of you leaders out there for these groups. Really appreciate you guys doing this co-hosting and joining us for this event with Kate and Jeremy. To start out with, I just wanted to kind of go over a few housekeeping items before I hand it off to them. The big thing, right, is please use the chat and share your thoughts. Other leaders and I will be monitoring the chat, and we'll try to answer your questions, or we'll help Kate and Jeremy sort of find those questions and call them out. So if you do have any sort of questions or anything like that, please feel free to throw them in there. When we get to like the Q&A portion, feel free to like raise your hand, use reactions, things like that. So that we know if you have like a question, but chat will be sort of the best way to sort of monitor that. We are going to record it. So please, everyone, stay on mute as Kate and Jeremy kind of go through the presentation, just so we can get a really good recording. Only come off mute at the end with the Q&A session, so we can just get a good recording of the session. Use the chat, share your thoughts. As I mentioned, leaders, if you guys want to help just monitor and just pull out those questions, that would be awesome. So already kind of covered the Q&A, and then just kind of wanted to share this. I'll share this at the end as well. We have upcoming events like crazy. Any event that is virtually hosted, you are welcome to join. Just go to ace.atlassian.com, and you can kind of see all the upcoming events that are happening and see anything that's virtual. We love having people from around the world join our events and help enhance them. So please feel free to join. There's a high velocity conference from Atlassian, which is going to be more ITSM stuff and Jira Service Management, which is super excited, coming up in November. Yeah. And then JiraCon is next week. If you're not aware of that, there is a 30% discount code. So grab your screen to grab right there if you haven't registered for that, but that's an all-day conference next week. So just wanted to sort of call out those. And like I said, at the end, I'll kind of share this as well. But for those of you who have to drop off early, I wanted to make sure and share that. So that is it from me, because I know you're not here to see me. So I'm going to hand it off to Kate and Jeremy and just let them take it away. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Erica. Let me share my screen really quick and we can get started. Yeah, like Erica was saying, just make sure that you're on mute. I think there might be one or two people who are still off mute. Yeah, let me pull up my screen for us all and we can get started. Let's see. All right. All right, so can everyone, Erica, can you see my screen?
Looks good, Jeremy.
Perfect, awesome. Well, thank you all so much for coming to today's presentation. It's Better Together, Jira Service Management and Jira Software. I'm Jeremy Cooley. I'm a product marketing manager here at Atlassian, and I'm based in Washington, DC, and I've been at Atlassian almost 4 years. I've worked in product marketing and also as a product advocate. So that's a team at Atlassian that works directly with our customers. So I have a lot of hands-on experience just working with customers on this topic in general. And then Kate, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Sure. So I've been at Atlassian since 2018. I joined through the Opsgenie acquisition, and this is a great topic. Jeremy has done a lot with it, and I thought it would be fun to share as a community event to sort of get get in front of you all, talk about it, hear kind of your experiences. I'm really passionate, mostly, my background is mostly in incident management, but slowly expanding that as I continue my time at Atlassian with Jira Service Management. And I just want to thank you all for joining. I know it's different times for everyone, so appreciate you taking time out of your day to chat with us.
Yes, thank you all. So the agenda is going to be a mix of kind of fundamentals of this integration, because we know that there are different experience levels when it comes to Jira software, Jira Service Management, using them together. We know that there's some people who don't use either one. So we wanted to kind of give you all a nice spread of fundamental information to know, but also like a more in-depth product demo to get you up to speed on some of the more advanced features with incident and change management specifically. And then we're going to save some time at the end for Q&A as well, so we can get some of your questions answered. And again, just a reminder, just make sure you're on mute. There's a few people that I can just hear occasionally. Just make sure you're doing that.
I just muted everyone, Jeremy. So,
oh, perfect. Thank you.
But you're going to have to ask me to unmute later on, but just for now.
Thank you. All right. Well, yeah. Oh, wait.
Sorry, Jeremy. You have to ask me for permission to unmute. I apologize.
There we go. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, you sound wonderful.
Perfect. Okay. So most of you today are probably familiar with Jira software, which is probably Atlassian's most popular Jira product. This product is all about supporting project management for software development. So that's agile planning, fully customizable Kanban and Scrum boards. But today's presentation is going to be mostly focused on Jira Service Management, those specific features in Jira Service Management that Jira software users would find useful for software development, and features that IT operations would find useful for working with software developers in general. So we're going to kind of take you on a tour of these different areas that Jira Service Management can really make an impact in the software development lifecycle. So let's just get right into it. Typically, the integration features fall into 3 buckets. So we have discovery, delivery, and operations. And I'll define all these in just a moment for you, but we're going to kind of use this loop as a guide as we go through each one of these features, or each one of these sections. The first one is discovery. We call this discovery. And in discovery, it's all about the discovery of work and requests. So this would be things like bugs, enhancements, but this could also be general intake that can help you do your jobs better. That could be something like requesting system access, infrastructure, requesting help from other engineering teams, bug bashes, API updates, even having people sign up for EAPs. There are a lot of use cases that can help you gather and discover all of those requests for you. So for example, Jira Service Management offers several channels for discovery, like a customizable help center, email, chat with a virtual agent, embeddable widget, and even some API integrations. So this puts a service layer in front of all those things like bugs, feature requests, anything that could be requested of your developers, and helps streamline it so that they get all the information they need in a consistent way. And they can focus on their backlog or their sprints and however they want to use that information. The next common use case with Jira Service Management is around delivery. So for all of you, that means your normal CI/CD process that's a part of software delivery. Jira Service Management can work alongside any workflows that you have existing to surface up critical information that can be leveraged during different service management processes. So this could be things like incident and change enablement. And this is all made possible because Jira Service Management has a services component, a unified services component that ties together all your repositories, critical business services, all of that information. A super popular use case here would be deployment tracking and deployment gating. And how that works is with Jira Service Management, teams can automatically create change requests when deployments are initiated to selected services. And that provides a seamless insight for incident responders, since you don't need to manually create change requests after every deployment. So there's a paper trail of all of these deployments happening automatically. And these change requests can even be gated through deployment gating, which prevents those deployments from moving to production until the change request has been approved by a designated approver. So that puts an extra layer of security in front of deployments so that nothing goes through without the proper people looking it over, which is really cool. And we'll go over that a little bit later whenever Kate does her demonstration. And then the final part of this is operations. So this is going to be things like built-in on-call schedules, alerting, incident investigation, swarming features like chat ops, Zoom conference calls, all of those things to get everyone involved who needs to be involved to respond to an incident, pinpoint the root cause, and then restore service to your customers. So, and then after that, we also have features like post-incident reviews so that the team can come together to figure out what happened and make sure that it doesn't happen again. And we'll be demoing a few of these features in the operations section as well, a little bit later today as well. So I wanted to start with kind of a fundamentals of integrating these products because we get a lot of questions about the integration, very simple questions, and I just wanted to kind of address some of those to start. So this is going to cover like how to integrate, what are the user types and roles, things like automation. We'll talk about that. And then we'll go into Kate's more in-depth demo. So the first thing that is really important to know for this integration is that it's really important to add Jira Service Management to the same cloud site as Jira Software if you want to have the most optimal integration possible. And the reason for that is these products are built on the same platform. And when they're on the same cloud site, you're able to really easily link issues, auto comment, auto close issues, and you're able to take advantage of a user role called the collaborator, which I'll go over in just a second. But having these products on the same cloud site has some cost benefits as well. So we'll get into that as we talk about user types and roles. But this is like the most essential thing. Just make sure that you add these two products to the same cloud site. It's really easy to do that. I've kind of highlighted in a screenshot here where it says Discover. You would just go to Discover More Atlassian Products, and then you would find Jira Service Management and click Try It Now, or vice versa. If you're using Jira Service Management and you don't have Jira Software, do the same process, just find the right product and then add them to the same cloud site. So that's super simple. The next thing that's really important to know is that there are some unique user scenarios with this integration that are important to remember. And I'll also walk you through how to add certain users to Jira Service Management who are in Jira Software. So I'm going to go over this graph from right to left. The first one is for users who don't need a license at all in Jira Service Management or Jira Software. So these would be customers and request participants. A customer is the requester. So this is the person who sent the request to your service desk through the portal, email, chat, or widget. They have an issue or a question and they want to get an answer from your agents. They don't require a license ever. There's also something called a request participant. You can think of this as like a co-customer. This is someone who's essentially CC'd on the request who can also respond, get alerts and notifications whenever someone responds to them. They're just participating with the customer or requester. So it's very self-explanatory. But neither one of these require a license. They're always unlimited and free. Then you have Jira Service Management licensed users. So these are two types. There's project administrators. These are typically the people who set up Jira Service Management and the project. So they're the ones setting up the request types, the workflows. They're the ones who are adding agents to the project. They're taking care of all the permissions, the notifications. They're managing the entire thing. And then the agent is the user who is responding to customer requests. So they get requests into their queue. They are assigned those requests, and then they respond to them and resolve them. These two users require a Jira Service Management license. Now, the really interesting user type is called the collaborator. So this is a Jira Software user who does not have a Jira Service Management license, but they are able to access Jira Service Management without being licensed in Jira Service Management. There are some caveats to this. They can't do everything, but they do have a lot of permissions to do things like they can view issues, they can view comments, they can view attachments, they can add internal comments, they can delete comments, they can watch and vote for issues, they can view other watchers and voters. The big thing here, though, is a collaborator is essentially like a software engineer who wants to be able to communicate with an agent in Jira Service Management to provide them updates. Let's say that there was a bug that happened, a serious incident. The software developer can actually internally comment in Jira Service Management, letting the agent know what's going on so that they can then relay that information to the customer. And this does not require a license ever. So it gives the software engineer a lot of transparency into what the agents are working on without having to purchase a Jira Service Management license. So I'm sure you're wondering, like, that sounds great. How do I actually set that up? It's actually extremely simple to do this. All you do is go into your project settings, and then you're going to go to people, and you're just going to add the email of the user that you want to be a collaborator. So this is the Jira software user. And then all you do is just highlight them, select Service Desk Team. That's a specific role that will give them access to Jira Service Management to do, internal commenting, viewing issues, all of that. Selecting the Service Desk Team role does not make them an agent, so they don't get a license when you do this process. They avoid getting a license. You don't have to pay for them at all, and they get access to the service project that you granted them access to, which is really cool. So it's that simple. You don't have to do anything else with this. Let's see. Another thing that I would encourage you to look into if you're just getting started with this integration is how to use automation between the products. So with Jira Service Management and Jira Software, you're really easily able to manually link issues between the two products. So I've kind of highlighted here what that looks like. If you're on an issue, you can easily look for an existing issue to link, or you can create your own issue from this linked issue field. And you can also obviously do like manual comments and things like that. But automation is like a really cool way to kind of take a lot of the legwork out of linking issues. And so as an example, let's say a service request arrives that has the request type bug. You can automatically create a linked issue in Jira Software for your developers. Like every time a bug comes in, if you wanted to do that, that might get a little excessive. So maybe you want to put like another layer over that and make it a little bit more complicated to automatically link a bug in Jira Service Management, Jira Software. So in that case, you could consider maybe when a request in Jira Service Management moves to a certain status in a workflow, then a Jira Software issue can be created for your dev team when that transition occurs. So the native automation engine, it offers a lot of flexibility with unique triggers, conditions, branching rules, and actions that are going to allow you to build this like custom experience that links issues only when a specific criteria is met. So, and we do have a product guide on automation that I'll share with you in just a few minutes, but this is something that's going to make your lives so much easier if you just like do a little bit of research into automation and how these two can like communicate with each other. And then to expand on that, you can also use automation to do things like close multiple linked issues across the two products. So another example would be, let's say your service desk team has received multiple issues reporting a bug on a mobile app, for example. So those issues can all be linked to a single Jira, those issues have all been linked to a single ticket in Jira Software. So we took every Jira Service Management ticket that's coming in for that bug and linked it to one single Jira Software issue that your software development team is working on. Once the software development team resolves that bug and moves its status to like done or completed, you can trigger an automation rule that will turn around and auto comment on those Jira Service Management tickets, letting everyone know that the issue has been resolved. And it can even auto close those Jira Service Management tickets whenever that Jira Software issue has been closed. So There's a lot of like bi-directional sync here that you can do. In this example, it's showing when an issue is transitioned to done in Jira software. For any linked issues that caused said linked issue, you'll then transition the issue to completed and then add a comment to the issue to let the customer know that their issue has been resolved. And here you can also see some smart values, which are those brackets that you see. That is actually pulling information directly from the Jira Service Management request. So you can kind of customize the response that you send to customers to pull out their name, their issue summary, their issue key. So it almost seems like it came from the agent and not from some automation rule. So you can like customize this to pull out really critical information for everyone and make it your own. And in terms of resources, that was just some fundamental information to know. If you're curious to learn more about this integration, there are 3 really important resources that I would highly recommend checking out. And I put the QR codes for you here. The first one is a webinar, and this is Jira Service Management for software development teams. This is more catered to the software development audience, but it's really applicable to IT operations as well. This webinar was, I think, less than a month ago, so it's relatively new, and it goes pretty in depth into discovery, delivery, and operations. It's about 36 minutes long, and there's also a Q&A at the end if you want to watch that. The next one is our product guide on how Jira Service Management and Jira Software work together. So this is going to kind of summarize what I just went over with, just in a little bit more detail. And it also covers a few additional things to keep in mind, like setting up custom fields properly. It also dives into user types and roles in a lot more detail with like very large definitions. So I highly recommend checking that out. And then we also have our total economic impact of Atlassian Jira Service Management by Forrester Consulting. So this is a really good resource if you're trying to get the leadership at your organization to try Jira Service Management. There are a lot of really good data points in this resource about how teams have implemented Jira Service Management and some of the benefits they've seen. I did want to highlight a few of those for you today. So in this report from Forrester, you'll see that when people are implementing Jira Service Management at their organization, typically they're saving 167 hours per month by engineering teams, 115 hours per month saved by IT operations teams, and then they're seeing a 10% reduction in service requests and a 15% decrease in resolution time. So those are just a few of the metrics that we pulled from this report, but I highly recommend checking this resource out as well, especially, like I said, if you're trying to get Jira Service Management implemented at your organization and maybe you're getting some resistance, I highly recommend this one. And with that, I'm actually going to pass the torch over to Kate so that she can walk through the demo a little bit for you guys as well. Stop sharing my screen.
Awesome. Yeah, let's just get this going. Sorry, I'm having once I hit the share screen button, the Zoom disappeared, so I couldn't find it. But now you should be able to see my screen. So what we're going to do is, Jeremy covered really nicely how he talked us through very nicely all of the different key touch points of how to use Jira Service Management and Jira software together. We've got a lot of different resources that can help you with that. And we also have some exciting things coming up, as Erica also mentioned. And the main theme of a lot of these is added context and visibility. So I personally, for me, I always find it helpful to be able to see what that actually looks like in the product. So the first thing that I'm going to do is take you through some of those touch points, kind of like a little tour through where you can find these touch points within Jira Service Management, when in change records and incident records. And then we'll talk a little bit about where you would go to set these things up, depending on the time we have left as we walk through, because we do want to make sure that we leave enough time for questions. So here we find ourselves, this is in our central operations service desk, service project, just to set the context for you. This is where all of our changes are recorded. We are in a change record for a deployment, as you can see. So the first thing we see at the top is that we've got our affected services. This is the object graph for that, and it will show us all of the different connections. So once again, we're looking at Jira Service Management here, and we are looking at the assets being pulled from, this is being pulled from our asset repository. And we can see the service in question and all of the different relationships it has. In case some of you on the call aren't familiar with assets, you can drag around here so you can get a better idea of what exactly you're looking at. Sometimes if they're really close together, it's harder to see the inbound and outbound relationships. So this particular service is for retail. It's our retail service. We have the different service relationships, so we can see that it's related to these other services as well. We are also connected with the project. Again, as I mentioned, we're in our central operations project, which is where we record our changes. We have the Bitbucket repo that's connected as well, key stakeholders and responders. So if something were wrong with this particular service, it would be very obvious whom you would need to get in touch with. We also have linked issues. There's none at the moment, but it is helpful to have that context as well, whether it's reviewing a change or reviewing an incident. So that covers the services portion. Then we have the affected applications here. Again, that's added context. You have the full object details for each of these items as well, just to provide you with really a full visibility of what you're looking at here. This particular change is leveraging some of that automation that Jeremy mentioned. This one, I'm going to take you through the history, and you can see, you can also see up here in the SLAs section, we're leveraging SLAs in order to soak this change. So it's fully up to you. You can customize certain changes to soak in a lower environment, and then if there's no problems, they can automatically deploy once that soak time is over, and that's what we've done here. I'm trying to find also within the automation recording where we show that here. Of course, I'm losing my place, but we're just proving to you that this is fully live. So that soaking is really helpful because, again, you're not bogged down in the change process. It automates a lot of this for you. It's also pretty easy to set up. So I'm going to pull here. So this is the project settings for central operations. I just want to show you quickly how this would get set up. So here we have time to soak, and I'm just going to zoom in a little bit because at least for me, it's small. So I can only imagine on your screen how it looks. It's very easy to edit and create these. All you have to do is set the different parameters. So in this case, change risk is critical and affected service is defined here. You match the different priorities. Of course, time zone is important. And then you have options to determine how long you want that soak time to be. And that's, again, fully configurable. You can decide how you want the due date to be displayed, etc. And so the only thing I do want to point out, which is here, SLA edits do take a little bit. So don't expect it to be instantaneous once you do update that soak time. But again, this is another way that Jira Service Management is going to make leveraging Jira software much easier. So we'll go back to that same record for that deployment, where we can also see the linked issues. So here we have the Jira software issue. Again, so you've got that full context, and you can easily see, because of that linkage, who you should contact. If you have any questions, if you have any issues, say perhaps an incident occurred very shortly after this change, you would know whom to reach out to. They would also be listed as a responder for this particular service, and the deployment would be connected to their team or their name, and you'd be able to get in touch with them and pull them into a war room or a Slack channel, etc., depending on your personal setup there. So that's one example of a change record, what it could look like, how you're connecting some of these different touch points. We also have the option to attach a form for additional information. So of course, this is our demo instance. So this says refer to associated planning page. That's fine. Typically, this would be fully filled out. We also have associated incidents as well. Down here, the other information that you're given is relevant knowledge base articles. Occasionally, this can really save you a lot of time. Say there was a similar incident on this, an incident on this service, you would have perhaps a run book for something that happened before that you could just access here. So now that we covered this particular change record, I do want to take you through to a couple other records just to further highlight what the context looks like. So I'm just going to close out of these since I know that we already went through them. And so again, one of the benefits that Jeremy touched on when he was talking through it is just the ability for change enablement. A while ago, I think in like 2011, I was working briefly at Bose, and I actually, at the time, I didn't really fully understand the process because I was new to the whole world of ITSM, but I was assisting the change manager there, and the process was much more manual. Cabs were still really popular, even for just standard changes, even for standard pre-approved changes. There was a lot of manual work to be done. This particular change record is a standard pre-approved change, which means that as long as there's no incident on the service and there are no changes that might collide with it, it's going to push through. So we have something that I leverages smarts within Jira Service Management that determines the risk of pursuing this particular change, and it will also check and see if there's an incident on the service you're deploying. So for example, in this case, it was the website. This is a completed change. Currently, the website's an incident, but when this change went through, it was not. So had it been an incident, even though this is an automated change that we're saying, oh, this isn't too high of a risk, we can let this one go through. If there were an incident on the service at that time, it would have been stopped. And then somebody would have been able to been notified via the ticket. I do want to call out, I'm not showing any approvals here, but for certain changes, you can require an approval before they can move forward. And that would appear up here where that completed button is. And so I'm just going to talk you through the history so you can kind of see some of that work happening behind the scenes. Apologies for the visual whiplash here. So you have all of this context, the urgency is here, and all of this is being done by automation for Jira. So that's that automation that Jeremy was talking on earlier. You can access automation from your project settings. If you are going to set up any automation that requires an assets custom field, you do want to make sure that you're logged in as a global admin. That will make that will show that's where you need to be in order to access those particular automations, but the rest you'll be able to just locate on the project level. So you can see here that Jira automation for Jira updated the change risk to low after it did its magic and confirmed all of the different details. It updated the affected applications. And then after it went through the review, it pushed it to implementing. And now here we see it's completed. And it updated the affected applications for us. So this is all based on automation that we've created. However, this change went from opened to implemented, completed, without any human having to really intervene in any of these places. And so this is, again, obviously something you would only do for low risk change, but it really saves time. It increases the velocity of the process, And it takes a lot of that manual intervention off of the plate of the folks who are working so they can free up their time and really be able to focus on things that require their human intervention versus something that you just need a full record for and a full kind of life cycle view of, and it's not really that high risk. So with that, I see I want to make sure that we leave plenty of time for questions. So the last thing that I'm going to do is just walk you through an incident record. This particular incident is open. So I will touch on the touch points and then also do a little Slack demo, if you will. Very brief, but we'll walk through that together. So we've got, that's that website service that we saw in that other issue. So you know it's live updating. It does have open incidents on it. This is one of them. So we've got the full view of what's affected the service, the applications, the infrastructure here. This is pulling from an assets custom field. So it's only going to show me infrastructure that matches the associated service and application. It links us here to this Jira software issue, add SSO to website. So there's that other context. This is rather new. I can see similar incidents. So perhaps there are some incidents that have already occurred that might help me in resolving this one faster. And then again, I have the full history and work log here. You can see I updated the link an hour ago to prepare us for this, for the live demo or the live walkthrough of Jira Service Management. So you have all that information, all of the approvals at your fingertips. Moving over to the right side of the screen, I'm just going to scroll down a little bit. So here I can create a chat channel in order to start talking through the incident. So I'm just going to create that. And this is helpful because, again, it's going to bring those developers and those IT operation folks together so that they can resolve the incident faster. And you're going to know who to communicate with in order to do that. So let me just pull that up. I'm going to add myself as a responder here. So you have this full list of responders. Dante is our developer. We've got folks on the support team in here. And so we're pulling folks from all of the different teams in order to get them in one place, in one room, and get them responding to the issue at hand. There I am. And now hopefully my phone is muted because I don't want to receive a mobile alert for that. And let me pull up the Slack channel for you. Sorry, Zoom isn't letting me just drag it over. So here's that Slack channel. You can see the incident key up here, and then the history of what has happened. And it's automatically adding the various responders based on who is in that issue. So we can get chatting and solve this rather quickly. While we're in Slack, another thing I wanted to do, just while we're on the topic of change. So here you can see, I'll do it live just because it's a little bit more fun. But if I needed help with an emergency change and I wasn't fully sure of the process, one other way in order to take some of that load off of your different team members is to leverage Atlassian Assist and our virtual agent here. So in this case, I needed help with an emergency change. The virtual agent, it might be a little bit difficult to see depending on the size of your screen. So just as a reminder, I'm in the top right corner. So here the virtual agent tells me the full procedure. And then not only that, but I have a link to this knowledge base article that I'm going to slide over here. that tells me the full procedure that I need to follow. So that virtual agent's helped me out in finding the information, the documentation for this procedure. This is in our knowledge base, so that I can get going with that and get that emergency change pushed through and properly recorded. So I'm just going to close out of that. And then if for whatever reason that did not resolve my issue and I needed further assistance, I could say no. And then this issue is automatically opened. For our support team, it's going to be open with the central operations service desk, so that way someone can assist me with it. And it's already assigned, as you can see, pretty quickly to Sammy. And that human intervention, again, when necessary, right? All this automation and this AI is about taking work off of our plates when we can focus on, when we need to be focusing on something else, but then still allowing us to interface with a human when we need an actual human to resolve our problem, our question, etc. So now that we're done in Slack, let me just go back to JSM, back to that incident record where the mobile app is randomly crashing. So again, you've got that full list of responders. And then because we're in here, I can also see who's on call. So say for whatever reason, one of the responders is not responding fast enough, I can take a look at the different on-call rotations and reach out to someone else who's on call, just in the event that maybe our records of who's responsible for that service is outdated. Maybe somebody switched a shift for that day last minute. I have that visibility here of who's on call. And if I needed to look at other schedules instead of this one, I can click into the Opsgenie interface and view the full breadth of those folks. So I do want to make sure we have enough time for questions. The only other thing, though, the last thing I'm going to show you before we push to questions is in the event that you do want to set up deployment gating, it's pretty easy to do. You would just go to project settings and then change management. Again, this is the IT service management project template. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Make sure you're leveraging the right type of template for the project. And then all you have to do is select which deployment tool you're going to leverage. In this case, we're leveraging Bitbucket, but you're also able to use Jenkins, Octopus Deploy, and a few others. You can select the request type, and then you have the option, maybe you just want to track, you don't want to gate, that's fine. You click don't use deployment gating, or you select allow or prevent deployments using statuses in the change request workflow, in which case you're able to gate those deployments based on the parameters that you set up. And then you can connect other services down here as well. So with that, just to summarize, it's really about the visibility that you have. If you are leveraging Jira Service Management along with Jira software, you've got a much richer context into what's going on in your various environments, how they're affecting changes or incidents. And then you also have better visibility to bring the IT operations and development teams together when something does go wrong, so that you can get to that resolution more quickly. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing. It looks like we've got quite a few questions in the Q&A and some in the chat, perhaps. This is a good one. Erica, I'll take this one first. This is from Erica. Does Slack and Teams have feature parity in regards to your incident demo? At this time, they don't. It is something that we are working on. Jeremy, I just asked to unmute you, and Erica, I just asked to unmute you too. Sorry, I forgot I had all control in this demo. Sorry for that. I was wondering why it was quiet. No, Nothing like a Zoom update to throw you off your game. So sorry for that. But at this time, they do not have feature parity. It is something that we're working on. It's a high priority for us. But I'll keep you updated on that one. I don't have any dates to share at this time.
Yeah, it looks like there was also a question, is Jira Service Management included with Jira Online licensing? So I think what you mean is, does Jira software include Jira Service Management? It does not. So these are two separate products that are licensed separately. But like I mentioned, there is that collaborator role where you have Jira software, but you're actually able to get into Jira Service Management, see issues that have been submitted, like bugs and feature requests, internally comment on them, watch them for updates. Like you get to do all of that without consuming a Jira Service Management license, as long as you set up that permission that I mentioned, where go to project settings, people, and then just add the user to the service desk team role. That will not give them a license to JSM. I know it seems like you're giving them a license, but licensing in Jira Service Management is actually managed through something called user groups. So that's a separate thing. And you don't have to worry about accidentally licensing like your whole staff. Like if you add the Jira software users to that group via people, they'll just get access to whatever project you gave them access to. They don't get access to other projects unless you give them access to those as well. Or you're able to pick and choose, who gets access to what, and then they'll get all those collaborator permissions that I mentioned, and everything that they get access to, everything they can do is part of that product guide that I linked in the resources. So you can see like a whole list of everything they can and cannot do. So like, for example, they won't be able to use a lot of the more advanced incident management features without that Jira software, Jira Service Management license. Like that's a good example, but it really just depends on what you need each person to do, and it can be very customizable to like each person's role. It's not like, depending on what you do, this is what I want. This is what access I want you to have. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. And then the other question was, in addition to virtual agent, does it allow for a staffed agent queue? I don't think I was exactly sure what that meant.
Yeah.
Kate, do you?
So I sent a follow-up question to that person. Sorry for not using your name. You're listed as an anonymous participant, but so that person, I did ask for more information. I still don't fully understand the use case. So if you want to ask to go on mute, I can unmute you so you can share with us. But the additional context is, if they have a service desk with staff ready to answer chat queues, can they utilize Jira Service Management to handle virtual agent chats as well as a staffed queue based on routing roles? So and routing roles is an Opsgenie feature. So please feel free to ask to go off mute, and I can unmute you so you can give us more context for that one.
And if not, if anyone has any other questions, feel free to post them in the chat now. We can definitely answer them for you while we still have some time.
Yes.
Oh, here's one. Do we have a way to migrate issues from Jira software to Jira Service Management? That is a great question. I don't think there's a super clean way of doing that. That might be a question where we might need to follow up with you. Erica, could we maybe do some research and then maybe email the answer to that question to everyone after the event is over? Because I think that's I've definitely seen that there have been a few instances of customers I've talked to about cloud migrations who had like such an old version of Jira software that they were actually using it as a service desk. And going forward, they wanted to use Jira Service Management instead. So they were trying to figure out how to migrate all their information between products. I don't know what the resolution of that was, but we can definitely look into that for you for sure. I'll make a note of this question so we can go back to it.
Awesome. Yeah, that I'm not sure on that one either. There's another So I have a question here. Is the environment we've just seen available as a template or demo for people with interest? So this is my personal private environment that I share with some of my product marketing coworkers. So this one is not. You could leverage a free trial as a demo. And then there are some other options that I can send along as a follow-up. I don't have the information off the top of my head, but I know there's some other places that you can go in order to leverage a demo environment without having to set something up fully.
Yeah, it looks like Tanya also had a question. Is this capability included in all Jira Service Management and Jira software, or do you need to install extra apps? So correct me if I'm wrong, Kate, but everything that we showed today was native to Jira Service Management. There were no apps involved in the demo. One thing to keep in mind is depending on what plan you have, there are slight differences in the incident management capabilities. So like deployment gating, for example, I believe is only going to be available for premium and enterprise customers. Assets is only going to be available for premium and enterprise customers, but we didn't show any like third-party apps in this demonstration. It was all native product functionality.
Yes, aside from Slack.
Yeah.
Was
Okay. Let's see. Did we get anything in the Q&A? No. Okay. See, so Jimmy, one of our biggest challenges is that comments get added randomly between the customer request and the software bug issue in JSW. Do you have any best practices or recommendations so that it isn't hard to follow the timeline of the conversation that has happened, or so that responses don't get lost because it was added to the wrong issue? And Jimmy, I'm assuming for that, let's see.
It's a great question and a great thing to bring up. So thank you for that.
I'm assuming that you're using automation to do this. Let's see. Yeah, Jimmy, what we could do for this, I think we could talk to one of our SEs, Atlassian solution engineers, and see if they have any best practices around this. I would probably need to know like how the environment is set up a little bit to kind of give you a better answer to this, but maybe this is something that we could communicate back and forth on, and we could communicate with our SEs to see if we can get an answer for you. But yeah, I think it depends on like how you have this configured. Is it automation? Is it like an API integration? Like I would kind of want to know the setup to kind of give you a best practice here. But and Kate, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but
I was just going to say I could take Jimmy off mute if you want to provide more context.
Yeah.
Yeah, so really what happens is you have the collaborator role set up, and at times the software developer will add the comments in the bug issue for the service management agent, or they'll comment on the actual customer request as an internal comment. And sometimes, the information is just not passed to the right issue and people miss it. So it's just we're not using automation, but I'm almost wondering if maybe we should be in some form to try and make sure that people don't miss things. And then you have both issues in a state of waiting on development and waiting on support, because everyone thinks they're waiting on someone else when there's actually comments in the feed, but it's convoluted and hard to know where you should be looking at any given moment.
Yeah, I would think automation would be the answer. You would probably have to do some relatively complex automation rules to make it work exactly how you want it to work. But yeah, I think that would probably be the best way of doing it. That way no one has to, there's like no room for like user error in that case. It's just like when this scenario happens, this comment happens every time, and it's associated with either the linked issue or like the trigger issue, like whatever the situation is. But that will really eliminate a lot of the like, did this person comment where they were supposed to comment and give us updates the way they were supposed to do it? With automation, you're really able to make rules that have like tons of conditions. So like only when like X, Y, and Z all happen at the same time will this comment happen. So it can be, I think automation can be a little daunting at first whenever you're trying to set things up like this, but it's definitely something that I would recommend looking into a little bit more. But I'll do some research on our end and see what recommendations our SEs would have for this, and then I can get back to you with like a more advanced answer than what I just gave you. Let's see. It looks like Phil's also interested in this best practice as well. Okay, let's see. Did I miss any?
So there's some other ones in the Q&A section. One is this is from an anonymous participant. This event is called Better Together. When it comes to change management or incident handling, working together with dev teams is quite important. Is it possible to see which changes outside of JSM have taken place on a service? If yes, how are those connected to the asset or the ticket? This is a really good question. It would be great if the asker would raise their hand so I could unmute them just to get a little bit more context. I'm sure there's ways to get visibility. In this case, we're focused on servicing more visibility between Jira Service Management and Jira Software. So we're assuming that Jira Service Management would be the place of record for those change requests, and the connection with Jira Software just makes that more automated and a lot less manual. But if you could provide a little more context, that would be helpful. I know we're just about out of time, so Jeremy and I have recorded all the questions, and we'll work with Erica to get those answers to you, whether that's through a community article or follow-up. But I do want to just say thank you, everyone, for your time. We really appreciate it. And thank you, Erica and Jordan and all of the co-hosts who participated.
Yes, thanks everybody for coming out.
Yeah, thank y'all so much. We appreciate it. Yeah, like Kate said, we're definitely gonna keep track of all these questions, and then we will work to get you the answers that our SEs would provide here.
Awesome.
Perfect. Thank y'all. Appreciate y'all coming.
Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, everyone.